Hello and welcome to today's little taster. How to give tough messages and still be liked and respected. Hi there, I'm Selina Stone, a Master Life Coach and Casting Director. Here to guide you into playing the role that you would like in life and not just on the TV screen. Yes, you can make it happen whenever you take the appropriate action. So, what are we waiting for? Let's go. Providing feedback to staff is always tough, but if it's constructive, you not only get the message across, but you build a more cohesive and capable team as a result. Do you remember when your parents told you to eat your veggies because they were good for you? Well, now that you're an adult, you know they were right. Well, just as they were right from the beginning, I'm asking you to trust me when I tell you this. Constructive feedback is the only way to learn and develop both personally and professionally. That means you, as a manager, have a responsibility to your staff to help them develop. That means you have to give constructive feedback. So, what is constructive feedback? First, I'll tell you what it's not. Constructive feedback is not criticism, which has a negative effect because it is so often generalised and personal. Constructive feedback is not personal. You don't turn around to someone and say you're lazy, but it's a targeted response to an individual's action or behaviour. For example, you did not accomplish the task you agreed to complete. That is intended to help them learn, and it is delivered from a place of respect. Constructive feedback is not closed, but rather invites the individual receiving the feedback to shed light, share their perspective, or provide their response. For example, do you see it differently? Constructive feedback does not blame but presents a collaborative approach to problem solving. Example, if we're all to go home tonight on time, task A needs to get done. Or, what support can the team offer to finish task A so that everyone gets to go home on time? Constructive feedback works because it enables us to give honest, tough messages to those with whom we work. However, instead of insulting, shutting down others or alienating those who receive the feedback, and thus lowering their morale and their resulting productivity, it motivates them to ask for help and acknowledge a skill or deficiency while feeling supported and respected. Two of the most important factors influencing employee retention satisfaction are a great boss and feeling part of a team, because it's delivered out of respect and it's a genuine desire for the individual to improve. So constructive feedback accomplishes both. Providing feedback in this way enables you to build the cohesiveness of your team while effective managing performance issues. It also enables you to remain respected, well-liked, and overall considered a great boss. The principles of feedback is 1. Choose correct timing for your feedback. For example, praise is most effective when given as soon as possible, after the behaviour has occurred. Immediate feedback will help to reinforce a correct behaviour and make it more likely to happen again. When an incorrect behaviour is not corrected with feedback, the staff member may incorporate it into his or her customer or colleague interactions unknowingly. It is highly desirable when possible to give corrective feedback before the situation occurs again. Secondly, ask for self-assessment. Beginning by asking the person for self-assessment involves them in the feedback process. It helps to promote an open atmosphere and dialogue between the person doing the coaching and the person being coached. Often the person is well aware of his or her own strengths and weaknesses. It is more effective to allow the person to voice opinions before providing your own assessment of performance. Through self-assessment, the person can gradually assume more responsibility for his or her own abilities and performance. Focus on specifics. When you focus on specific correct or incorrect behaviour, you remove the feedback from the sphere of personality differences, and the other person will be more willing and able to change. For example, when providing corrective feedback, do. When you're talking to a customer so-and-so, I noticed that you forgot to use her name. But don't. You are not building rapport with the customer. When providing praise, do. When you spoke to customer so-and-so, I noticed that you used really good open and closed questioning techniques. But don't. You communicated well there. Limit feedback to a few important points. Good coaches and communicators identify one or two critical areas and help the person address them one at a time. It is too hard to examine and try to change many aspects of a behaviour at one time. Restrict your feedback to one or two important points so that you do not overwhelm the other person with too many things to consider. Provide more praise than corrective feedback. Positive reinforcement is one of the strongest factors in bringing about change. Unfortunately, a lot of people always focus on the negative. When you give corrective feedback, remember to point out corrective behaviours first. This is as important as pointing out mistakes and areas that need improvement, and always end the conversation on a positive. Give praise for expected performance. People deserve to be praised for doing their job to the expected level. Too many people take the expected level for granted. However, remember that praising anyone who meets established standards is as important as praising the exceptional performer. Praise is a strong motivator, and enough praise may be what it takes to turn an average employee into an exceptional one. Develop action plans. Work together to identify the desired performance or result and how it can be achieved. Decide when the steps will be accomplished. The useful techniques to use when giving feedback, now that we've highlighted the main principles of giving feedback, we're going to look into the useful techniques that can be used in feedback sessions, like open-ended questioning. We use open-ended questions to allow and encourage the person to give more detail and elaborate. Use words like what, how, who, tell me. But avoid closed questions when you're trying to get more information from someone. Avoid words like do you, did you, have you. Also, be careful when you use the word why. The person may think that you are blaming them or being critical if you use it. They may think that you disagree with them if you use this word. Reflecting back. This is all about putting what the other person has said into your own words and reflecting it back to them. This is called paraphrasing. And by doing this, it shows that you're listening. And more importantly, that you are listening and understanding. For example, the individual could say, I always seem to get the rough end of the stick. No one listens to me at all. And you could reply, you seem concerned that no one listens to you and that you seem to be getting a dumb deal. Maintaining silence. Encourage the person to take their time. Always give the other person time to think through their reply to a challenging answer. Do not feel uncomfortable about silences, but do be wary that silence can make people feel very uncomfortable. Maintain eye contact and demonstrate an interest. In summarising, summarise the output of the meeting and action plan to ensure that you have heard correctly and understood from his or her perspective. Restate the key aspects of the feedback discussion. Conclude the discussion and focus on planning for the future. For example, you could say the 3 major issues you raised were, to summarise then, Next, being sensitive. Acting sensitive to the needs of the person is important, as they may reject the feedback initially. Give the person space to think in his or her time. This may help the person to absorb the feedback. Let's look at initiating action and offering ideas, for example. Can you think of an action that would help build on your skills in this area? Could you offer ideas without forcing your personal opinion? One thing you might do is, you could say, have you thought about your options include? What can I do to help? Those are all very good questions. Gaining ownership. Help the person to integrate the feedback into their own experience and view of themselves. Link the feedback as much as possible to business results and objectives. This will help increase ownership. Any change in behaviour will only occur through acceptance and ownership of then feedback by that person. Here's an exercise that I would like for you to do when giving feedback. Pick a partner and choose who is to be A and who is to be B. A will be providing feedback on B's performance. You will both be given role play sheets of what has been going on and the person you are to play. After you have completed that, change roles and complete the role play too. So B becomes A and A becomes B. I'd now like you to write down what worked well and what could have been done better, as well as what will you know for next time. Well, that's all we have time for today. If you enjoyed this article and you'd like to develop your skills even further, then please go to selinastone.com under the heading e-courses, where you can download all of the 11 general awareness courses that have been prepared especially for you to do, not only in your business life but in your personal one also. As always, until next time, be lucky.